you are gonna see some cool ass shit.
Yeah, you don't want 2 Flavor Flays.
Heart transplants, brain surgeries. I've seen it all.
Dude, that's fucking dope.
Walk up and just get it, whatever it is.
Yeah, brother.
I'm trying not to laugh, bro, but Josh is fucking killing me.
Guess what Navy SEALs do, motherfucker? They communicate and they're on the same fucking page.
Whoa. Welcome back to the Happy Hoodlums podcast, everybody. It's your host, Kemper Woodruff, and the very powerful Zachary Sampson. And today we got a special guest returning for part 2, the Kang gang leader himself, Mr. Stephen Kang. Welcome back.
Still on that, all right. Appreciate it.
Kang gang for life, son.
Yeah. If I could make a K with my hands, I would.
You could do it like this. Oh no, it's not gonna work.
That's not how you do it, but we're not gonna get into gang politics right now. No crossing lines. It's Kang gang or die. So, anyways, welcome back, brother. What have you been up to?
Cool. Working out, rebranding, getting back to my old customs.
Tell us a little more about your rebranding, because I know that your social media push is something that you've been formulating. So let's go ahead and let the world peek behind the curtain a little bit and hear what's going on in your life and what you got brewing for them.
For sure. So as everyone, most people who saw my social media in the fall of 2023, they were seeing a very consistent Steven of posting on TikTok, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then one day I said, you know what? I just deleted everything off of TikTok, wiped that entire account actually. And I was in a really bad, I wouldn't say mental state, but I would say in a bad area at the time, because I was trying to get through a couple things in life and I had to learn a couple lessons before I get back into social media. Because I was sitting there going I'm literally being so fake on social media because I'm not doing so well in life, but I'm telling others, here's how you do well in life. So it's I was okay, why am I doing this? I need to take a break and just kind of figure everything out in my life, get everything under control, and then come back. So now I'm back. It's March, but took a whole 2 seasons to get back to where I was. But at the end of the day, it wasn't just me who did it by myself. I genuinely have friends sit me down or text me going wake up, get your stuff together. This is not you. We're actually concerned for you. You got to delete some of the things in your life, and you got to genuinely start over. And it's not, most people go new year, new me. For me, it was more new year, better habits, old me. Because people love the old me, but they hated the new me. So we're kind of that weird mindset where new year, but old me is kind of back.
Well, yeah, whatever's inside of you is going to come out when you get squeezed. Just you know, and that's some Wayne Dyer shit, so I can't steal it. So if nobody knows about Wayne Dyer that's listening, you really need to go check him out. But in one of his speeches, he said, just like a fruit, you know, if I squeeze an orange, I'm not going to get apple juice. He was like, if I squeeze you, what is pressure going to release from you? And I think another sidebar on that is just, you can be an expert in one area of your life, and in all your other results can not line up with that, right? So in terms of your physicality and what you were, promoting through social media and people mastering their fitness, you were A1. But in terms of the other areas of your life, it's you can't hide from yourself. And the only way that I can say it is you feel like you're standing naked on a cold day. You know what I mean? In front of the world, bro. Because you're damn, everybody, can they see who I really am in this fucked up moment? And you're no, it's not me. It's cold out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the best way I could explain it.
There's a breeze. It's drafty in here. What the fuck?
It's chilly out here.
Yeah.
But what helped you pivot out of that other than your friends? You know, where did you reach within yourself and recognize?
It was really so I'm very I know myself pretty well to the point where it's okay, there's certain things that happen when I kind of get in a bad state. So I started for some reason, in the beginning phases of when I was starting to like realize what the bad things that were affecting my life, because it wasn't just like me doing bad habits. There were certain factors in life that were causing me to go in a bad state. Now that flew over my head for 5 months. I'm just like every time like this bad thing happens, like I'm like, oh, let me just try to like bring it back and try to fix it. Cause I'm like what my friends call me is they say you're like Mr. like just save a person. Like you always want to help, you always want to like influence others to do better. Like that's what you got to do. But at the end of the day, like sometimes some individuals do not want that help, and some individuals don't want to get better. And you need to understand, like I have to learn that, hey, I can't help everybody, and I can't try to save others while losing myself. That's essentially what I was doing. I was trying to save others, but I was drowning while trying to save others. It's basically like that Titanic scene where Jack dies because he wants to save her, but that's essentially what's happening to me. So I'm like, no, screw that. Like I'm gonna push her off the iceberg. It's my time to get back up and save myself and get out of here, because there's certain situations where you got to make the sacrifice even if it hurts. And I had to learn that kind of the extremely hard way, knowing that at the end of the day, like what may be good for somebody else is not good for me. And I have to learn I may be good for you, but you're not good for me. And unfortunately, that's just how it had to happen. And it taught me a lot. But that being said, of course, in the process of it all, I lost myself. So I had to reconfigure everything. I stopped eating as much. Like my workouts were like, they were good. Like, don't get me wrong, my workouts were good, but they weren't optimal. They weren't like the best like I could have been. Like now I'm back to like sweating my ass off in the gym and having a good old jolly time with like all my friends and just having the good group of people that I always had around me again. And they're also doing like, hey, old Steven's back. Welcome back. We're good to see you. Like that's good to hear. And I'm eating again. It's like everything's in good due process.
That's like what I've noticed. Well, okay. So you had the time where like you lost yourself after an event, but you came back and you came back better. But what I've noticed in myself is like I'll lose myself during events. And I'll be like, I'll change completely. And so like there was a situation not long ago, like last year, where I didn't even recognize who I was, emotionally and like just motivationally, completely different kind of person. And it took losing that person to realize that I had lost myself completely. And so sometimes it takes like trimming the bush, trimming the hedges, pruning it for it to actually grow better, essentially. And so I think that it's a wise thing that you ended up learning about yourself.
Got a sweet ball throw going on over there.
What?
Sorry, this is stupid. Trimming the hedges. Anyways,
I thought you. I did think about
the
some.
Manscaped app in 3, 2, 1. Oh, Manscaped. All right.
Yeah, right. Where's our sponsor when we need it?
Yeah.
But no, I'm in
Manscaped.
agreement. And what I can say is like when you're young, um, it's hard to have a frame of reference for how deep life can get, and loss is really what brings you to this place in yourself where you realize there is no floor and there is no ceiling. Everybody talks about there's no ceiling on your potential, but where you cap it. Well, that same truth is the same for the floor and the other end of the spectrum as well. And you can just keep going infinitely down, but you're not going to bottom out until some cataclysmic event happens that forces you to cap it, right? And, a lot of people experience that in addiction through like an overdose, or someone crashes a car or things of that nature, right? Someone gets arrested, all those kinds of things. And um, there's other people that can heed the guidance that's coming within them and observe their habits from a detached enough way that they can compare who they are right now in this moment to who they know themselves to be based on their experience of life so far, and that's a very rare trait because it's wisdom, right? It's not necessarily something you gain through um, age and experience and things like that, as much as your intuition. Just the light bulb goes off. That's just like when you go to a little kid. Like kids are oftentimes really wise and say some profound shit with no frame of reference to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I seen a
It's just like
video.
that, but you doing it with yourself.
I seen a video in like on that exact same thing. It was ask a kid, like a toddler, what it means to be happy. And I don't remember what the kid said, but he answered it, and it was all I remember is that it was what you were like exactly what you were saying, like profound and like wise, and they don't even know why it's that, like why it's wise, and it's fucking cool. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
because there's purity or dilution. And that's
Yeah.
really what it is. Like you can look at it in the matrix sense of like there's zeros or ones, right? You're either whole or you're not. And we can totally nerd out on that on another podcast because that's my shit. I love getting into the like philosophy of the spirit. But what I kind of gathered in what you're saying is you had like a spirit of you were in a funk, you know, where you just couldn't shake it. And so I think that's cool. Were there any things that you had goal wise that helped give you like an anchor point? Like in the movies, you always see them like they throw the grappling hook and it hits some shit.
Yeah.
You got anything in your life that let that grappling hook like hit you so you could pull up?
Oh, 100%. So the thing is, at the end of the day, like, there's that saying where you could try to fulfill yourself just by yourself at the end of the day. But, like, let's be honest, you cannot do anything without a team. So for me, it was more like finding the right people in my life to keep and the people that I need to kind of kick out, like, respectfully speaking. That being said, like, I had to unfortunately cut off a lot of people. There was that phase where during this changing period, I was like, I'm sorry, but you have to go because you are causing more detriment to my life rather than a positivity. So I had to figure out who deserves to belong and who deserves to leave. On top of that, I also had to adopt a mindset where I'm like, if I'm gonna change like this, I need to understand that people will leave. So I have to become very like in a way like headstrong and go, if you want to leave, leave. I'm not going to force you to stay because at that point I'm wasting my time. Why would I try to force someone to stay who wants to leave? So that's another thing I had to learn. And the people who stayed, and people wanted to leave. The people I wanted to be gone, of course. Unfortunately, the respect of the matter is, if I want them gone, they're going to be gone. They're not going to come back. It's just how it's going to work. If I decided that, I also decided to leave them, so they have to accept that. And that's just something I had to learn. And so more of like that being said, I want goals where we have the basic goals, having a family, having a wife, all those things. But weirdly enough, that minor goal that I just said about having a wife and having a family is very hard to obtain if you don't know how to learn from your own mistakes and learn from your own, like, even successes. It is hard out here to do that, by the way. To find the dating game for my age, at least. Like, I know we're not that far in age, but like the little, 5-year age gap that we have makes a tremendous difference. But on top of the other goals are just like, more my fitness goals, my branding, what I'm trying to do. Like Kemper and I discussed it beforehand. We're keeping down the down DL, the down low for now. But once that starts getting launched, it's going to be something that I finally accomplished and I wanted to accomplish for a while. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. So, one thing that I can say is you can always date up. And the other thing, I'm gonna give you some real advice though. You can always find you a nice little sugar mama, love her a little bit of Stephen Kang. But no, on a real note, it took me a long time to recognize that my friends aren't my peers. And what I mean by that is like just because I love somebody and I want them to continue this journey together, there are places that people can't go because of their energy and that, where they're at in their level of awareness based on their habits, right? And I'm going to break this down real quick. It's like, to simplify that, an excellent person requires an excellent person to be their peer. Their peers. Like you may be friends with somebody, but the level of excellence to which they perform whatever their thing is subpar to where you're at. And it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily doing bad things in their life. It's that they can't get to the level of performance where you're at in this current state based generally on their habits, right? Because once you take off those bad habits, their limiting beliefs dissipate, and now they'll naturally rise to where they see and know themselves to be inside. They're just not allowing themselves to perform on that level because it costs too much. When you're there's so much friction when you're trying to do something excellent or like receiving an excellent result, putting in average effort. You know what I mean? And once you get rid of the fact of like it's too hard, and it's like that changes, and you go, I don't give a fuck how hard it is, I'll die to get this. Now you're on that same level, and you can be peers again. And that's why it's like you didn't necessarily cut these people out forever. It's just I understand that life is it's not quite a circle, it's more like a figure eight, right? It's like I'm going to go out here and I'm going to have this journey, and then I'm going to cross paths with you again. And then we're going to do this because we're both on our paths. And the real difference is going to be their level of, habitual excellence that they maintain on a day to day that makes them their peer and your friend, or just your friend and someone you love.
Exactly. I like that you said that because there's this thing that I kind of learned is like my mom always told me, you are who you surround yourself with. And as a kid, at a young age, at 15, 16 years, you're like, no, like whatever they do, they won't influence me. But then I started realizing if you surround yourself with a suboptimal group of people, you're going to be a suboptimal person yourself. Now, what I mean by that is you surround yourself with excellence, you're going to be excellent. You surround yourself with mediocre, you're going to be mediocre. Because at the end of the day, it's like two strings pulling at each other, and you don't want that. You want to be able to be on the same playing field. But on top of that, it's like an analogy actually, where I actually read this online somewhere. You go to like a bar, right? And you see a group of girls, and all of them are, in better terms or worse, like, they're kind of out there. And it's there's that one good girl in the middle who's very conserved. But let's be realistic. You go on the streets, right? Say one day you're out on the streets, humor me here, you see 10 lions. 9 of them want to eat you alive, but there's one that doesn't want to eat you alive. Are you going to pay attention to one that doesn't want to eat you alive? Or are you going to run away knowing that the other 9 want to eat you? That's the saying of like, you are who you surround yourself with.
That's an interesting
To
way
kind
of
of
putting
like
it.
in like another way of like wording what both of you said. There's a quote that I've seen a few times on Instagram that is you are the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I think that makes way more sense. And when you start realizing that, you start deciding who's in your inner circle with a lot more intention. And I think more people would benefit from that way of thinking.
So now that Zach said it in this beautiful, concise way, let me go off into the weeds with this because I really look at everything in terms of like frequency, right? And harmony. So I'm gonna give y'all the ultimate old man saying, birds of a feather flock together, right? And so if you think about it, it's like it doesn't mean that a person is bad. It just means that in terms of frequency, if I'm up here on the spectrum, I can't harmonize with you down here, and we can't abide in the same space, right? And that doesn't mean that you don't have the potential to rise in your frequency, but there's going to be two things that happen because we can't occupy the same space. Either one, which is stronger, which would be the faster moving vibration, right? Will be the higher vibration, calls this one up. If this one cannot be called up, there's only two options. This one is going to bounce off, and that's why, like, haters gonna hate, right? They're gonna hate because it's so hard for me to be in this miserable state, and you're saying just come be happy with me, and I don't yet possess the ability to get there, right? I don't know how to navigate through this state of frequency, this low frequency, up the levels to harmonize with you here. So disharmony leads us away from one another. And then the other thing is someone up here is going to come down here if this is what's really strong and this person is moving very fast, potentially in this moment, but they don't have enough momentum and sure-footedness to stay there, right? And that's the difference between free will and influence, right? I can influence you from my state up here, but you still have the free will to do as you wish, right? And when you look at it from a habitual standpoint, today is the culmination of all your habits of yesterday that got you here, right? And so there's so much momentum behind that that it's so jarring for you to make that shift that it's not going to happen just on a whim of your friend saying, come be happy, it's really nice up here. It's going to happen when you bottom the fuck out and you realize this train has now gone off the tracks, right? You know? And so that's when your life kind of pivots. Um, and I've nerded out on that shit a lot. But if you look at like the law of attraction and the way things come to you and really observe and study the path of least resistance, it makes a lot of sense. And you can learn that from electricity.
No, 100%. Law of attraction is a scary thing. So when people hear, so like I said, I'm right now living on a college campus, got my own little apartment. You see a lot on a daily basis when you're in college. And it's like the law of attraction, when you say that out loud, which I have said before when I go out, with my friends and I'm talking to a bunch of people, I've said the word law of attraction. It's very interesting to see what people think. Because when people hear law of attraction, they think, oh, relationship, boy, girl, girl, boy, like dating. But in reality, law of attraction doesn't mean just that. It means like, say that you sit at a table by yourself, and this is something that I read as a quote. Rather than finding a chair at a table, make your own table and let the chairs come to you.
I get it.
I think there's a lot of people that like when they hear law of attraction, because it like when you don't know about it, people are like, oh, law of attraction means if I want $1 billion, I'll get $1 billion and I don't have to do anything for it. And it's like, that's not necessarily the case, because even with law of attraction, you have to be moving in the direction of it. You can't just not do anything. You have to do it. And so it's also like, in terms of your electricity thing, we can throw in another element. It's exactly like water, right? Water finds a way, right? There's a river, there's rivers everywhere. They found a way to connect to whatever like landmass or get through whatever landmass that they're going through. And it's essentially just like, if you stop, nothing's going to come to you. You have to use law of attraction to propel you forward. It's the momentum thing that you're talking about, Kemp. And it's
you got to nerd out on Abraham Hicks. I highly recommend it. There's a book called Ask and It Is Given, which is The Secret. Like that stems from a series that was made for Australian television where they followed around Esther Hicks, who's a medium for a consciousness called Abraham, or referred to as Abraham. And that goes into the Abrahamic religions and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, Asking It Is Given is like the step-by-step book of which it goes far more in depth, and it's much better written than The Secret. The Secret itself is very surface level. And if you really want to see and understand the nuances of like how the law of attraction plays out in like a real life scenario, you can look it up on YouTube. Look up Abraham Hicks and then put a topic in. I don't care what the topic is. It's really fascinating looking at like romance and relationships where people will come up and say, hey, this happened. This is what I was thinking. And, Abraham, this consciousness that she channels, will express and explain the situation of what was really happening on like an energetic level, and then what transpired on a physical level to make sense out of it. But that helped me so much to understand how thoughts correlate with emotions. And that if you look at something and you don't have a bunch of like uh judgment about it. You just look at it and say I like it, and then you don't really think about it. How that makes its way to you is somewhat irrelevant. The way will be made, and you don't have to question it. You just have to follow this path of your inspiration. And of course, through action, there will be a bridge of like different incidents and scenarios that lead you to it. And then all of a sudden, this thing comes into your experience, and you're like, whoa. And so, of course, it's, if you read Think and Grow Rich, it's focus combined with desire and an absolute faith that and knowingness, that you already have that thing. In the moment that you saw it and were like, "Ooh, I like that," you envisioned what it was, you experienced it, and then you let it cultivate itself. Um, and it's a fascinating thing, because then you start to see it in your life and how quickly you can manifest one situation. Like when you're really tense, you might spill something on your shirt and you go, fuck it, I knew it, and really in your head you were thinking, man, don't do something, don't do something, don't do something, and that something happens, right? And you
It's
can
also
see it
like how
work.
people justify like anxiety and shit, because they'll be like,
Mm.
every time that they have an anxious thought and then something reinforces it, they're like, I knew it, I knew something bad would happen. And it's like, well, yeah, of course you knew something bad was gonna happen, because you made it fucking happen, pretty much, or
And
you were looking for something bad to happen.
to to give you guys the level up that I found, because I almost found it in like a backwards way, where I went way first in like headstrong into like the philosophical and like religious and spiritual aspects of this, and learned it on like the technical side of like book knowledge and really applying it in my life. But I didn't realize how much physicality um, can really upend this cycle, and get you out of that state of negativity. And when you begin to learn more about the body and honestly like breath work, it will help you make sense of how your chakras really get balanced and balance that energy within you from being overstimulated in your crown chakra being all about thoughts into your root chakra through the stimulation and movement of your breath that dictates your life energy where your awareness is, right? And so if you're way too in your head, and you can bring your awareness into your body through vigorous exercise. And I think there's this huge gap in a lot of places, other than honestly like the yoga and what's now beginning to become the yoga slash neuroscience study, right? That's explaining this, and I think like maybe martial arts might also be in there as well. But those kind of professions, I guess you could say, or areas of study, is where that all comes together. And it's like, oh, the mind, body, soul connection, you know, it makes sense there. And so to kind of bring this back, it's like, did you have any kind of awareness when you first started getting into, weight training, exercising, and coaching, that kind of connected you to yourself very deeply, but you didn't have like the philosophy aspect together because you were young?
Let's see, if we're talking about young, let's see, I started working out when I was around 14. So like
Mhm.
actually working out. Like I've always done like swimming and basketball like a good portion of my life. But that being said, like, if we're talking about just like starting to pick up the weights a little bit around 15. Like so around there, and honestly, as a 15-year-old, we always make fun of it. Like Zach, like at the gym, we always like, oh, they don't know what they're doing. They're just kind of doing. But that's kind of what I was doing. I just kind of not know what I was doing. I was going off like whatever was on Instagram or what was on Google, but then or whatever my high school coach gave me to do. And that's the thing. Around when I got to like a lot older, around 20, when I started getting my trainer license, I started learning more about, what you said, mind body connection. You start telling your mind, like, keep it even. You tell your mind, keep that side even, make sure you work more on this side. And as you lift, you'd be surprised how much it makes you massive difference. Like even today, I was doing lat pull downs, and I'm very much aware that my left side might be a little more even than the right side. So when I told my brain before I did the lat pull downs or the whole time, keep it even, keep it even, it automatically got even. So people don't realize how important your mind is to anything you do in any facet of your life. Because like, if you don't have control of your mind, then your mind will control you. So at the end of the day, like, if you don't have power over what goes on in your head, the rest of the things that happen in your life is not up to you. You're officially out of control. You're steering the wrong direction, and that's just how it is. Like I know, like we're talking about the gym a little bit. Like if you control your mind, you control what you do in the gym. But that is a much bigger philosophy than people think. It's like if you do not control your mind, you have zero control over everything else.
Mm-hmm. Zach, what was some of the stuff that helped keep you on track outside of or was it the gym entirely that kind of helped you, get out of that funk a year ago?
The gym was a big part of it. Um, I had changed my style of working out from more of like bodybuilding, powerlifting to athletic bodybuilding. Um, and so a lot more explosive movements, way more movements rather than doing um like basic machine stuff or basic dumbbell barbell stuff. It was a lot of like jumping and single leg work and more diverse and dynamic movements um, that changed the way that I interacted with my body. And then also I was doing way more intense cardio. So I was fucking hauling ass on the elliptical for 15 to 20 minutes. Um, but beyond that, it was reading. And so I was reading 3 books at a time for like 3 months. And I would read for probably like 4 or 5 hours a day, just spread out, not at one time. If I felt like reading, I would sit down and read. Then I was doing yoga and I started meal prepping way more intentionally. Um, Started doing yoga. I continue to do yoga, but I was doing it more often, like more regularly. Um, and then just honestly just focusing on myself, continuing to take care of every part of myself. Cause it's like um a lot of people tend to they're like, oh, my hair is this way. I care what people think about how my hair looks, right? I started to rather than looking at it that way, I started looking at it as like I care about what my fucking hair looks like. I don't give a fuck what other people think about it, but I'm gonna make sure that I feel confident in my body, and so I'm gonna put it the way that I want it to look, and that's what's gonna make me feel good. And so getting out of that or starting to do that, and even like fucking dude, something as simple that I started doing recently, a beard wash and beard oil. Just started using that stuff, and you feel like personally, I feel way better because it's just one extra thing that I get to do to just take care of myself, spoil myself, and feel good. And it's like it's not always about like physical exertion or mental stimulation to reconnect with yourself and develop healthy habits. Sometimes it's just, oh, I'm gonna fucking clip my toenails more regularly or some shit, right? And so it's like just taking care of yourself completely.
You took this in a totally different direction than I thought I was gonna go. Because I actually had another question that I was gonna ask, and it's so fucking irrelevant right now that all I have to contribute is this comment. I was I was talking with a couple friends of mine at the brokerage that I work at, and they were talking about like their skincare routine, and they were like, "What's your skincare routine?" And I was like, "I don't have one." And they were like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just put my face under the water in the shower." And they were like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, "Dude, I just like," and I recognize like there's an aspect of me that like I don't know that I was ever shown that by men.
Yeah.
Like really, like I don't know a single man in my life that did that. and I
Me
kind of
neither.
look at it like self-love was not a huge, like, I saw it from my mom, and like the way that my mom would take care of us, like it taught me a lot of the value of like how valuable I am. But I think I was always in like a provider mode, of like men provide, and like so my whole goal was outside of myself in a sense, and it's like what I deemed necessary in like my daily life was so like I judged my ability, and I still do to a certain extent, like my my pats on the back come from how little it takes for me to function. And so I was like, whoa, just in this moment it blew the doors off my mind, like, because what I'll do, like, I'll shave when I feel sad or something like that, you know but that's like about the extent of it. And I was like, damn, I started looking at my life. I was like, they were like, yeah, like you don't ever give yourself like a facial or something. And I was like, no. And I was like, I would do it if like someone else bought me that. Like, but I wouldn't do that for myself. And sure as fuck not on a daily routine. And I was
Yeah.
like, huh. So maybe there's something to it that I'm missing out on. You know what I mean?
Well, Kemp,
You're
you
definitely
do
missing
you
out.
do you do have aspects of it. Like you work out, right? That's one part of it. But also, like, if we go away from the workout part, you get regular haircuts because you want to, you want, like, that's what makes you feel good too. And so it's like, it's not that you don't have to have a complicated self-care routine to make yourself feel good, right? It, whatever you do, like, dude, sometimes I did this recently. When I felt down recently, all I did was simply get fucking dressed. Like, I had the day off. All I did was I put jeans on, my boots, and I put a fucking white t-shirt on and a flannel. I was like, I'm just going to get dressed just to stay at home all day. That's what I did. I just stayed at
Right
home all
on.
day and
Yeah.
did laundry. And it's something just as simple as that, rather than staying in that fucking place of like, oh, I don't feel good, so I'm just going to sit in the clothes that I fucking woke up in. No, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to take a fucking shower, and I'm going to get dressed, regardless
I
of where
think
I'm going for the day.
I'm different in a weird way of like I pulled up at the gym and there's some glasses that I know I look funny in, like, and I look at them, I'm like, these are goofy as fuck. And I know it, but I was like, fuck that. You're going to the fucking gym and you're gonna do it even if you look fucking goofy.
Hold
You
on,
know?
bro. Like, real talk, who gives a fuck how goofy you look? Because at that gym, I'll tell you what, there are some literal characters. If you think those glasses looked goofy, dude, okay, now, no judgments. The guy's fucking cool. But this dude came in and he's wearing his attire completely will make you look like absolutely invisible if you were to wear those glasses at the gym. Uh, he was wearing a American flag do-rag. He
That's what it's
had
about.
a muscle shirt with a tank top over it. And then he had American flag tights on with shin guards and Timberland work boots.
But do you know how fucking powerful that man felt?
Guess
That
what?
man,
He was hitting the heavy bag at the gym too, and next to him was another dude that was just wearing whatever the fuck he wanted to wear. He had, this is normal, gray sweatpants on, but then he had an 80s muscle shirt crop top with a curly headed mullet with a bandana on. So when you ever think that you look goofy, you don't. Just fucking own that shit, because that's
bro,
what the fuck you wanted to wear.
no, the whole point is psychos go to that place, bro. You go to that fucking place. You don't fuck with those dudes on the heavy bag. I guarantee you they'll dive out their shit. Bro, that dude was double American flag and had knee pads. He didn't give a fuck.
Dude,
was
he
ready
had
for
straight
war.
up shin guards on. It was
He
absolutely
was ready
fucking
for
amazing.
war.
Yeah, he
I'm
was.
not gonna lie, I have gotten into it with one of those dudes before. Not those dudes you described, but like you said, like the crazy people who hit the heavy bags at that gym. I
Yeah.
have gotten into it before, and I think Zach knows when I get pissed off and if I decide to snap, I snap. So like, I definitely back away from that. But like, yeah, no, I think the key point is like we just gotta stop caring what other people think. Like with the thing that I'm trying to do with social media now, that I'm starting up again, officially as of a week from now. I need to remind myself, go back to who you were, Steven, when you were 5 years old, when you walked in with purple shorts and a purple backpack and didn't care about what anyone thought about you. I gotta go back to the mindset of like, hey, like, why would I care what anyone thinks? At the end of the day, if I succeed, the opinion of others don't matter.
Yeah, dude,
That's
you thought
the
it was
exact-
dope.
Well, that's the point of
Exactly.
what I'm saying. Is I know because I have fucking good taste that these are horrible looking fucking glasses on me. But I don't give a fuck. I'm going in there and I'm gonna do it looking goofy because I'm fucking crazy like that. That I'm like, you think it's hard to go to the fucking gym when everything's right? Force yourself to go to that motherfucker when some shit's a little off and you're in your fucking head about it. And I went in there, I had a fucking killer workout. Why? Because it was fucking. That's just. I don't know. It's a test. It's a test of do I give a fuck or do I not give a fuck? And it was me wrestling with me. It's not an outside thing. It's an inside thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's like that's probably the biggest piece of advice that I give to, and I say I feel like I say it a lot, and I know there's a lot of people that also say it, but going to the gym on the days you don't want to go are the days that are the most important. Because if
100%.
you can go on the days that you're like, motherfucker, I got to work out today. Today's not a rest day. I got to go work out. I don't want to. Fuck. Those are the days that build your discipline. Those are the days that mean more because it's like, hell yeah. Like that's more of a win than going on a day that it's easy to get there.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And I guess now we can ask the question that I was going to ask earlier. What do you guys think the correlation is between pain, like emotionally, and the pain of working out?
I love that you bring that up. Kind of intertwining the two together, what Zach said and what you said on the question. To start off with what Zach said, yeah, discipline is key because like motivation, it comes and goes. Like honestly, if people think that when I work out every day, like, oh, he's always motivated. No. Today I didn't want to work out. Yes, I don't want to work out. Tomorrow I'm probably not going to want to hit my leg day. But you know what? It's the discipline aspect where you got to carry yourself every day. Now that correlates to what you just asked about emotional and physical pain. If you are dealing with something emotionally painful, to be able to feel the pain somewhere else is like a cerebral, like, I don't know, some neurological science behind it where when you're dealing with something like mentally and you substitute it with a physical pain in the gym of like, the stress you get from it or like the burn you get, it deletes the emotional pain due to the amount of dopamine that comes into your receptors. Now, that being said, does the emotional pain come back later? Yeah, because the serotonin and the dopamine all wears off eventually. Like, oh crap, I'm back to it. But eventually, it's like you fake it till you make it. The emotional pain goes away, and now you just love the feeling of the burn. I generally go to the gym because, like, yeah, I go to the burn every single day, but like I started loving it, and right now I've got nothing emotionally going wrong in my life. But so like it does correlate in a sense where it's like a band-aid that helps until you no longer need the band-aid, and it becomes something that you not rely on, but you turn into a healthy aspect of your life during a time when your life wasn't so healthy.
That was a fantastic answer. Zach, you got anything to add on top of that?
Yeah. Well, it kind of goes back to like what you were saying, where it puts you back into your body, right? Gets you out of here, and it puts you into the rest of you, right? But what it does for me at least is what we've talked about a lot on the podcast, which is detachment. Observe, right? And so when I'm going through some hard shit and I go and I hit a really hard workout, what that does is that allows me to be it takes away that mental part of it where you're stuck in your head, puts you in your body, but then it pulls you away and you can look at it. And because you're so fucking tired. Like when you work out hard enough that you're tired at the end of your workout and you're at this place where you're kind of just floating there. You're just there. Like you're just existing because like you're just so fatigued that you can't think about anything other than like no, I guess not think about, but you can't it's hard to feel bad when you feel like that. When you're so fatigued from an actual really good workout and you put effort into it. I'm trying to think about how like I'm trying to wrap this like wrap it into each other itself. But essentially, at the end of a really hard workout, it's easy for me to observe my thoughts and my emotions, and it allows me to analyze and dissect it way better to work through that process. And so, for example, like a year ago, I started calling my workouts healthy self-harm. That's how hard I was fucking working out. I was going to the point of like I was in the best cardiovascular shape that I've ever been in. And I was working out for like 2.5 to 3 hours at a time and pushing myself. And at the end of every single workout, all I could feel was like I was floating and I had no negative emotion. I was just able to look at it and observe it and work through it. And so for me, I wouldn't say like negative or harmful physical pain does this because I've never done that. But for me, physical pain through physical exertion allows me to detach and really like look at everything from a point of view of zero attachment to the emotions or the events that are going on.
Bro, you really nailed it. The only thing I'm gonna sprinkle on there is it's like there's pride and a feeling of infinite that you recognize when you're you think you're broken and you just keep pushing and you realize it's that like David Goggins book title, You Can't Hurt Me. You
Yeah.
know? Like I'm I'm this pain is nothing to the pain of life, you know? And it's like I'm not trying to escape it anymore. I love this shit. Fuck yeah. I'm not waiting until I get to the end of this set to take a break. I don't need a fucking break. I'm doing another fucking thing right away, you know? And that's like Steven,
Dude,
I
I
know
didn't
you
even
love
think
your
about that.
fucking
I thought about it. I'm not going to have the energy to do any more after this set, so I have to rest. That was my thought. Like, I was going to be like, at the end of these 15 reps, I'm going to need a break because that's how hard I'm absolutely pushing myself. I'm not saving anything for for some other exercise I'm going to do next. It's all out
dude.
in this next 15 reps. That's it.
That's fucking legit. All I can say is in my where I go is like I go through that neighborhood that I just brought you through to the point where there's no talking.
Yeah.
There's no dialogue within me whatsoever. I've gotten out of the yeah, go harder, you can do this. And I've gotten out of the like, oh, we're almost there, you know, like there's no fucking dialogue.
It gets quiet.
Well, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just my body is just doing this thing and it's almost like I'm outside of myself. You know?
You, when you, and that's like the detachment, like observe
Mhm.
thing. It's like when you
That's what
get to a point of like of fatigue or exhaustion or just mental or physical exertion, I mean, uh it gets real quiet. You're like, yeah, this is nice. Like that's that feeling. When it gets quiet, that's when like the workout is really doing its fucking thing. And
yeah,
that's when
you
you
made it.
know you're on the right path in your workouts because now you know what it's like to really push yourself.
you made it. Like I look at it like you made it to the place that doesn't exist. Like you made it to nowhere. Like nowhere is truly this place of like this slice of the universe that God gives you in your spirit. That's just you can just go there. It's like your own corner of the world where nothing exists, and like everything is it. You need nothing to be perfect. It just is.
Yeah.
Like yeah. But I don't know, man. If you got anything else that you want to add, Steven, this has been yet again another interesting, trippy, motivational podcast. This one's way more philosophical than our first one.
100%. I think it's a key point. Like, we can all sit around. Like, I think this is hilarious. So, this could get me canceled, not in the bad way, but like, we do live in a generation that doesn't really accept that like tough mindset. Like, what you said, David Goggins thing, whereas like, unfortunately, as you get older, you kind of learn the life kind of is a do or be killed kind of situation. And when I was younger, I was one of those kids that didn't really take like tough love easily at first, but I realized like, holy crap, this life stuff is hard. And if I don't really try to survive it, and if I don't try to push hard, it's going to crumble. Now, that being said, the whole idea of like the top 1%, like versus my parents' generation versus now is so different because back then, top 1%, truly the top 1%. But I look at our generation now and go, the top 1% are the people who are actually working hard because the rest of the 99% don't really work hard. Think about like people look at the gym, and even when you go to the gym, I hate to say this, but everyone's there to get better. Yes. But is everyone there working hard? Not necessarily. Some people are there to socialize, not a judgment anything at all. Some people are there to have fun. Some people are there to work hard or do a mix of everything and all the above. I'm not judging. Everyone's starting to finish journey somewhere else. But at the end of the day, like even at a place like that, that's supposed to make everyone better, not necessarily is everyone getting better at the same pace. So we live in a world where everything's so different now. Everything's at a different pace and everything's moving either super fast, super slow, or in the middle that there is no longer differentiating what's right versus wrong. And I think that's the biggest thing where the only thing that can differentiate what's right versus wrong is do you got discipline or do you not? So kind of wrapping what we said earlier about like, do you have the motivation to be disciplined or are you disciplined to be disciplined?
Discipline equals freedom.
Exactly.
Jocko Willink.
All
That's
right.
not me.
Shout out Jocko. He's got the answers. Steven, I can't wait to catch up with you in another few months and see what's cracking yet again. I'm sure that you'll be back and you have the potential to be our 3-time Happy Hoodlum champ. So,
Third time's a charm.
Yep, keep going at it. Keep going hard. I'm excited for the world and myself to see what you've had behind the curtain because I know you've been working on a lot of stuff. And when it comes out, please do hit us up so we can come back and promote that for you.
Facts.
Oh, for sure. Appreciate it.
All right, keep killing it. To all my hoodlums in the Hoodlum Army, stay happy.
Peace.
Peace.